Young alien princess mocked a human until he stripped her armor and silenced her. The wind across the sky spires of Ethel spun like spun glass, thin and sharp. Kalen tightened the makeshift scarf around his face, the rough fabric scratching his jaw. Below, the city of Ethel shimmered, built on colossal, slow-drifting crystals tethered high above the poisoned surface of the world. He hadn't meant to end up here. A failed jump calculation, a crippled scout ship, and a retrieval beam that felt less like rescue and more like capture. Now he stood on a ceremonial platform, surrounded by beings who moved with an unsettling grace, their multiple limbs shifting beneath woven silks that captured the perpetual twilight glow. Their forms were elegant, towering over him, their faces smooth planes with intricate patterns of bioluminescent markings that pulsed in rhythmic sequences. He couldn't decipher the language, but the stance of the guards, the murmuring crowd gathered at the edges of the spire platform, spoke volumes, judgment. Then she emerged, taller than the others. Her silks were the deepest obsidian, shot through with shimmering threads that mirrored the distant starfields. Her head crest was more pronounced, her bioluminescent markings a stark, vibrant blue that flowed and contracted across her temples and cheeks. She moved with a regal certainty, her gaze falling upon him. He braced himself. He'd faced worse: pirates, failed colonies, bad cafe. But the sheer otherness of her presence, the way the air seemed to thin around her, was a new kind of unnerving. An elder with markings like ancient maps stepped forward, a low, resonant sound emanating from them. Kalen's translation implant, still struggling with the complex sonic structure of their speech, offered fragmented understanding, something about unbidden arrival. Violation, judgment by the scion. The scion, the princess. Her gaze was cold, assessing, then a ripple went through her markings, a flicker of something that might have been amusement, quickly masked. She spoke, her voice a series of melodic clicks in deep tones that the implant rendered, imperfectly, into his ear. The groundling trespasser. He looks soft. Are the creatures of the lower dust so easily broken? A wave of murmurs followed her words. He felt a flush creep up his neck, despite the biting wind. Groundling. He was Kalen Reese, explorer, salvager, barely qualified pilot, and definitely not soft. "Hey," he said, his voice rough against the implant's smooth translation. "I'm Kalen. My ship had an issue. No trespass intended." Her markings pulsed brighter, the amusement less hidden now. "An issue," she repeated, the translated word dripping with mockery. "The dust dweller breaks our wards, violates our sacred space, and claims an issue." She circled him slowly, her head tilted, those striking blue patterns shifting. Perhaps the challenge is too great. Perhaps this one should simply be dissolved into the lower winds. A shiver went through him. Dissolved? "Hold on," he said, trying to keep his voice level. "What challenge? I just need to get back to my sector. My tech isn't hostile, just broken." She stopped before him, her head crest held high. "Every arrival, unbidden, is a challenge," the implant relayed her words. "A test of our strength, a reflection of the ancestors' will. You stand before the scion of the azure bloodline, heir to the sky temples. You will be judged by the right of echoes." She gestured to a cleared space on the platform. Guards brought forward two elegant, cruel-looking staves, made of woven light. "You have caused imbalance. To restore it, you must face the scion. Prove you are not soft. Prove you are not merely dust to be swept away." She took one of the light staves, its tip humming with contained energy. Her markings flared with anticipation. "Fail," she said, her voice hardening, "and you become part of the spire's fountain. And perhaps your fate will be merely exile, or worse." She didn't explain worse, but the way she hefted the staff, the subtle tensing of her powerful limbs, told him she expected him to fail spectacularly. "Pick up the other," she commanded, her blue markings practically vibrating with arrogant certainty. "Let us see if the groundling has any fight in him." He looked at the staff, then at her. She was mocking him, her whole posture, the glint in her alien eyes. Everything screamed contempt. Something snapped inside him. Sarcastic rogue, they called him. Sometimes reckless, too. "All right, princess," he muttered, picking up the staff. It felt light, balanced, but dangerously potent. Let's see what kind of fight a groundling has. He gripped the light staff, its energy vibrating against his palm. It wasn't quite a weapon, he recognized, but the principle seemed clear enough. Hit the other guy. Don't get hit yourself. The scion circled him again, her movements fluid, intimidating. The crowd was silent now, a collective breath held high above the world. Your form is clumsy, she stated, not as an observation, but a pronouncement. Your stance lacks root. You will fall like a brittle seed pod. Her blue markings flared, then pulsed with rapid-fire intensity. It wasn't just visual. He felt a faint pressure in his skull, a sense of cold calculation. Telepathic echo, perhaps? Or just theatrical effect? Maybe, Kalen shot back, sidestepping her slow circle. But sometimes brittle seed pods explode in your face. She lunged, not with brute force, but with blinding speed and precision. The light staff blurred, aiming for his center mass. Kalen reacted instinctively, bringing his staff up to parry. The impact sent a jarring shock up his arm, and the staffs met with a sharp crack and a shower of shimmering particles. He was outmatched. He knew that instantly. Her technique was flawless, honed by who knew how many ritual duels. She pressed her attack, a flurry of elegant, deadly strikes. High, low feints followed by sudden thrusts. He stumbled back, barely deflecting the blows, his muscles screaming in protest. This wasn't just a test. She was trying to dominate him, to utterly humiliate him. You flinch, she accused, her voice a triumphant chime even through the implant's translation. Weakness. The groundling bends before the sky steel. Her staff flicked out, catching his leg armor, or where armor would be if he had any, with a stinging blow. He grit his teeth, dodging a follow-up that would have taken his head off. Okay, fine. He was outmatched in technique, but he had something she didn't: unpredictability. He wasn't bound by ritual forms or elegant maneuvers. He fought dirty. He saw an opening, a fraction of a second as she committed to an overhand strike. Instead of parrying, Kalen ducked low, rolling under the arc of her staff. He came up inside her guard, closer than she expected. His staff was useless at this range, but his hands weren't. Driven by pure instinct and a surge of adrenaline, he reached out and grabbed the front of her flowing, armored silks. She recoiled, a sound like a sharp intake of breath escaping her. Her markings went wild, a chaotic flash of blue. He ignored the protests, the sudden surge of telepathic panic from her. His goal wasn't to hurt her, but to disrupt her, to shatter her perfect composure. With a grunt, he pulled. The silks intricately fastened but clearly designed for ritual display. Not grappling, the fasteners gave way, and the outer layers of her ceremonial armor, woven plates that felt strange and cool against his skin, fell away from her upper body, scattering across the platform. The effect was instantaneous and devastating. The mocking chime in her voice cut off. Her sophisticated attack dissolved. She stood frozen, exposed to the biting wind, her complex torso and upper limbs suddenly visible beneath a thin, shimmering underlayer. Her blue markings flared, not with arrogance or amusement, but with raw, unadulterated shock and fury. The crowd gasped, a collective wave of sound that echoed off the spires. He hadn't just defeated her. He had violated a profound cultural taboo, desecrated her ritual attire, stripped away her public persona. He stood there, staff forgotten, his hands still outstretched where her armor had been. He hadn't thought about what he was doing, only how to stop her. Now, looking at the stunned silence, the outrage flickering in the eyes of the elders and guards, he realized he had made a monumental, possibly fatal, mistake. The scion's face, usually a mask of controlled elegance, was contorted, her markings pulsing with an intensity that seemed to vibrate the air itself. She wasn't mocking him anymore. She was pure, silent wrath. He had indeed stripped her armor and silenced her. And judging by the looks he was getting, he was about to pay a very, very steep price. The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating, broken only by the whistle of the wind through the spires and the faint clatter of the fallen armor plates. Kalen felt a cold dread creep up his spine. He had gone from a potentially simple exile to something far more complicated and dangerous. The scion's blue markings had settled into a low, dangerous thrum, like a predator's purr before it strikes. She didn't immediately lunge. Instead, she slowly straightened, her exposed upper body radiating an intense heat that had nothing to do with the wind. The shimmering underlayer clung to her form, revealing the alien musculature beneath. It was utterly captivating, terrifyingly vulnerable. One of the elders stepped forward. A low, urgent series of clicks and tones, directed at the scion. The implant translated, the violation. It is unprecedented. The scion didn't respond, her gaze fixed on Kalen, burning with a quiet intensity that was far more unnerving than her earlier mockery. She slowly raised a hand, not towards him, but towards the scattered plates of her armor. The fallen pieces rose slightly, levitating as if drawn by an invisible force, then settled back to the platform with a finality that felt heavy. The elder turned to Kalen, its ancient markings swirling with confusion and disapproval. You have broken the ritual form. You have revealed the veiled. The scion's honor is challenged beyond measure. Kalen swallowed. Look, he started, trying to explain. It was self-defense. I didn't mean to dismantle her outfit. I just needed to break her attack. His words, translated and echoing across the platform, seemed to hang in the air, absurd and inadequate. The scion finally spoke, her voice low, devoid of the earlier chime, replaced by a resonant that vibrated directly in Kalen's chest. You have won the challenge. By abandoning its form, you have claimed victory through unveiling. Her words were translated as a series of complex, almost poetic phrases. The groundling has shown root. By uprooting the sacred, the elder and the other attendants shifted, their markings pulsing with uncertainty. This was clearly not how the rite of echoes was supposed to end. By the laws of the ancestors, a challenger who defeats the scion in the rite claims bond, the elder intoned, its voice hesitant. The nature of the bond is determined by the challenge's form. Traditionally, it is a bond of fealty, of service, of protection. Kalen's stomach dropped. Bond? Fealty? Whoa, hold on, he said, raising his hands. I'm not signing up for anything. I just want to fix my ship and go home. The scion took a step towards him, her blue markings intensifying, not in anger now, but in a complex, shifting pattern Kalen couldn't read. You have claimed my outer shell, her voice hummed, drawing the attention of everyone present. The ritual dictates, claim requires reciprocal offering. You took the veil. Now you must bear the mark. She extended a hand towards him. Her fingertips glowed with the same blue light as her markings. Kalen instinctively flinched back. Bear what mark? What offering? The elder spoke again. The rite of unveiling, too, is a forbidden path, spoken of only in whispers. It means a claim not of fealty, but of resonance, of shared vulnerability. It seemed his clumsy, desperate move had stumbled into some ancient, rarely invoked aspect of the ritual. The scion must place a bond mark upon the one who has seen her unveiled. The elder finished, its voice full of trepidation. It binds their echoes, their fates. The scion's hand, still glowing, moved closer. Kalen felt a strange pull, a faint echo of the pressure he'd felt in his skull earlier, but deeper this time, linked to the thrumming in his chest. He was trapped. He tried to defend himself, broken her armor, and now he was about to be permanently linked to an alien princess on a floating city he wanted nothing to do with. His sarcastic remark about exploding seed pods felt horrifyingly prophetic. His issue had just become a cosmic catastrophe. Kalen stood frozen as the scion's glowing fingertips approached his temple. The light intensified, and he felt a warmth, a pressure, and then a strange internal resonance. It wasn't painful, but it was profoundly invasive. It felt like his very thoughts, his scattered memories, his anxieties about being stuck here, were being gently probed, examined, and echoed back at him. Her blue markings mirrored the process, flowing across her face and down her neck in intricate patterns. He saw or felt glimpses of her perspective, the deep-seated cultural conditioning, the weight of expectation, the shock of his raw, unconventional act, shattering her carefully constructed world. Her initial mocking amusement, Her controlled disdain had dissolved into something raw and complex. When she withdrew her hand, the glowing stopped. He blinked, shaking his head slightly. He felt different. Lighter somehow, but also tethered. He looked at the scion. Her face was unreadable, her blue markings now pulsing with a slow, steady rhythm. The anger seemed to have dissipated, replaced by a profound, almost weary acceptance. The bond is sealed, the elder announced, its voice hushed. By the light of the ancestors and the breath of the sky winds, their echoes are joined. Kalen stared at her, then at the scattering of guards in attendance. Joined? He repeated, his voice hoarse. What does echoes joined even mean? The scion finally spoke, her voice still that low, resonant hum that bypassed his implant and seemed to speak directly inside him. It means, groundling Kalen, that our core resonance frequencies are now aligned. Our thoughts will brush, our presence will comfort or grate. Our survival is linked. Linked? His mind reeled. I'm stuck here? With you? He couldn't help the frustration, the desperation that leaked into his voice. His sarcasm was replaced by genuine fear. She inclined her head slightly. For now, the unveiling rite carries great weight and great risk. She gestured to the dismantled state of her ceremonial silks. You have disrupted more than my attire. You have disrupted the anticipated outcome of the rite of echoes. The elder added, the bond of unveiling is unstable in this era. It attracts unwanted attention. Unwanted attention? Kalen was rapidly losing his grasp on the situation. From who? What risk? Before the elder could elaborate, a sudden alarm blared across the platform. It wasn't the chime of a ritual bell, but a harsh, grating siren Kellen recognized as military. Red emergency lighting flared to life, washing the spires in a sinister glow. The air pressure shifted subtly, a feeling of acceleration. Shields are failing. A frantic voice echoed across the platform, translated as urgent clicks. Energy signatures detected. Azure Spire is under attack. The calm acceptance on the scion's face vanished, replaced by sharp, strategic focus. Her blue markings flared, not with emotion, but with rapid calculation. She turned away from Kalen, barking orders in her native tongue to the guards. They snapped to attention, drawing weapons made of the same light-woven energy as the staves. Rival bloodlines, the elder hissed, its markings pulsing with fear. The violet consortia, they seek to capitalize on the disruption, to claim the spire while the scion's authority is uncertain. Kalen's mind finally caught up. His accidental arrival, the disrupted ritual, his forced bond with the princess, it had created a power vacuum, an opportunity the rival faction was seizing. And he, the clumsy human who had stripped the scion's armor, was now inexplicably linked to her, smack in the middle of an alien civil war. He looked at the scion, now fully in command, her vulnerable moment gone, replaced by the steely resolve of a leader facing attack. Our survival is linked, she had said. He believed her. He just wished he was. Okay, so, new plan, Kalen muttered, picking up the light staff he dopped. Survive the alien princess I accidentally bonded with during her ritual, defend her floating city from rival purple aliens, and then figure out how to get home? It sounded completely insane. The scion, alerted by his voice, or perhaps by the nascent echo bond, glanced back at him. Her blue markings flickered, a brief, unreadable pattern. Groundling Kalen, she stated, her voice carrying authority even as the platform vibrated beneath their feet from distant impacts. You are bound to this spire by the unveiling. You are bound to me by the resonance. If the violet consortia take the azure spire, they will extinguish both. You will fight. It wasn't a question, it was a command. And somehow, inexplicably, despite the fear churning in his gut, a strange sense of loyalty, a resonance with her unwavering resolve, began to stir within him. He was bound, and maybe, just maybe, he was bound to someone worth fighting for. As distant explosions rattled the platform, Kalen gripped the light staff tighter. He looked at the scion standing tall against the chaos, her exposed upper form a strange mix of vulnerability and power. He still had no idea what Echo's joins truly meant, but he felt her presence intensely now, a calm core in the storm, a fierce determination that resonated with something deep inside him. Right, he said, adjusting his grip on the staff. Fight. Got it. Just try not to get dissolved into the lower winds. Okay, princess? His attempt at dry humor felt ridiculously out of place, but it was the only way he knew how to cope. She turned fully to face the incoming threat, but spoke to him over her shoulder, her voice calm amidst the rising sounds of battle. My designation is Scion Zilera, not princess. A beat of silence then, and I do not intend to be dissolved. Groundling Kalen, ensure you do not either. Her blue markings flowed and solidified into sharp, angular lines, a symbol of readiness. The attack intensified, smaller craft, buzzing like angry insects, zipped between the spires, launching energy bolts. The Azure Spire's defensive systems responded, sending out shimmering shields and retaliatory fire. The guards around Zilera formed a defensive perimeter, their light staves now humming with lethal energy. Kalen felt the echo of her focus, her strategic mind sorting through options, calculating risks. He wasn't just an observer anymore. He felt part of the equation. The Violet Consortia seek the Heartstone, Zilera stated, not speaking aloud but broadcasting the thought directly into Kalen's awareness via the bond. It anchors the Azure Spire's power. It is housed in the inner sanctuary. The thought was accompanied by a flash of images, glowing crystals, ancient architecture, a sense of deep history and sacredness. They will breach the outer defenses first. The platform is vulnerable. Kalen scanned the area. The attackers were focusing fire on specific points, testing the shield integrity. More craft were approaching, larger ones. We need to get inside, he thought back, surprised that the bond allowed this direct communication. Find cover. Defend the sanctuary. The inner sanctuary is not easily reached during attack. Zilara's echo replied, the ritual paths are sealed. We must take the emergency conduits. An image of narrow, vertical shafts flickered in his mind. They are dangerous and unprotected. Dangerous and unprotected, Kalen muttered aloud. Sounds about right for my day. He saw Zilara flinch slightly at the sound of his voice, but her focus remained on the battle unfolding around them. The guards were engaging incoming attackers, their light staves parrying energy blasts. One of the guards fell, hit by a concentrated beam. We move now, Zilara projected, her voice in his head gaining urgency. Follow me. Do not stray from my path. She turned and moved with startling speed towards a section of the platform edge where the spires seemed to converge. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a dark opening. This way, she projected, a sense of grim determination emanating from her. Kalen didn't hesitate. Whatever she was, whatever he had done, she was his best, maybe his only, chance of survival. He ran after her, the light staff held ready. The air inside the conduit was thick and smelled of ozone and something faintly metallic. It was a narrow passage, angled downwards, with handholds embedded in the walls. Zilara moved with practiced ease, her movements efficient and silent. Kalen, clambering awkwardly behind her, felt the contrast keenly. He was the clumsy groundling, she the creature of the sky. They will enter through multiple breaches, Zalara's echo informed him as they descended. They are led by Vale, Consortia captain. He is brutal, and he knows the spire's weak points. We must reach the sanctuary before they do. The sense of urgency through the bond was palpable. He felt the weight of her responsibility, the fierce pride she had in her home, the cold fear of losing it all. And strangely, he felt a burgeoning desire to help her protect it. His own fate was tied to hers now. He had disrupted her world. The least he could do was help her put it back together, even if it meant fighting purple aliens with a glow stick. They scrambled down the conduit, the sounds of battle echoing distantly above them. Kellen's implant crackled, trying to process the chaotic symphony of alien combat. He could hear sharp impacts, energy discharges, the sounds of structures groaning under stress. The resonance bond pulsed, conveying Zalara's precise location, her movement, and a constant low hum of anxiety beneath her outward composure. He felt a flicker of it himself. The fear of being trapped underground while her home was being destroyed. The vulnerability of being in an unprotected passage. This level leads to the ancient archives. Silara projected into his mind. The sanctuary is below. The Violet Consortia may anticipate this path. He felt her thoughts shifting, calculating probabilities, assessing risk. He, on the other hand, was mostly focused on not falling and trying to figure out if the light staff could actually block energy beams or just other light staves. They emerged from the conduit into a vast vaulted chamber lined with towering structures that held shimmering crystalline forms. This must be the archives. The air here felt colder, imbued with a sense of immense age. Bioluminescent growths on the walls provided a faint, ethereal light, illuminating aisles upon aisles of stored knowledge. It was beautiful and hauntingly quiet compared to the storm raging outside. Suddenly, a burst of energy lanced into the chamber, striking one of the crystal archives with a sharp crack. Alarms immediately activated within the space. Not the military siren, but a deep, sonorous bell. They have breached the outer archive level. Silara projected, her echo sharp with alarm. They are faster than anticipated. Shadows moved at the far end of the chamber. Figures in violet-hued armor, their movements less graceful, more driven by raw aggression than the Azure Guards, were advancing down an aisle. Their weapons emitted a different kind of light, harsh, jagged purple beams. Violet Consortia, Zilara confirmed, her resonance tight with tension. Vale's advance guard. Okay, Kalen whispered, hefting the light staff. Looks like we're fighting our way through the library. He felt a brief, surprising flicker of something akin to dry amusement from Zilara through the bond. Your groundling humor is peculiar. Stick close, she projected. Their tactics are brutal. They do not fight with honor. Zilara drew her own staff, its blue light flaring as she took a defensive stance. She moved with a deadly grace, positioning herself between Kalen and the incoming attackers. He was surprised she was the scion, the one who needed protecting, but the bond seemed to have forged a mutual instinct for survival. He felt her echo pulse with a complex mix of protectiveness towards the archives and a fierce determination to defend their path. The Violet Consortia warriors opened fire. Zilara deflected the first volley of beams with her staff, the blue light meeting the purple in crackling bursts. Kalen tried to mimic her movements. Parrying wildly, the light staff felt clumsy in his hands, compared to her elegant control. He managed to deflect a beam that would have hit him squarely in the chest, sending a jolt up his arm. To the next conduit, Zilara projected, parrying a strong attack. Through the central aisle, she moved, fighting defensively, drawing the attackers after her. Kalen scrambled behind her, trying to keep up, deflecting beams, and occasionally using his staff to knock over sections of lightweight archive shelving to create temporary obstacles. The Violet warriors roared in frustration as their path was blocked. They gain on us. Zilara's echo was strained. She was a skilled duelist, but against multiple opponents, with ranged weapons in a confined space, she was at a disadvantage. One of the violet beams grazed her side, tearing the shimmering underlayer and causing her blue markings to flare with pain. Kalen felt it through the bond, a sharp stab followed by a cold wave of shock. "Are you okay?" he projected instinctively. "Minor damage," she replied, though her resonance was ragged. "Keep moving. The conduit is close." They sprinted down the central aisle, the pursuing warriors closing in. Another beam struck near them, shattering a crystalline archive with a deafening explosion of light and sound. Kalen felt the heat, the concussive force, and the sudden influx of fragmented data from the destroyed archive. Images, sounds, emotions, all flashing through his mind before dissolving. It was disorienting, terrifying. They reached the next conduit opening, a dark shaft leading downwards. Zilara plunged in without hesitation. Kalen followed, his heart pounding. He could hear the shouts of the Violet warriors, closer now. He was clumsier, slower in the narrow shaft. "They are right behind me," he projected, adrenaline surging. "Go," Zilara's echo urged. "I will slow them." He felt her resonance shift, her focus narrowing to the passage behind him. He scrambled down the shaft, the smooth sides offering limited purchase. He heard the crackle of energy weapons entering the conduit above him, followed by the clash of light staves. She was fighting in the narrow passage, holding them off. He felt a fierce surge of protectiveness through the bond, not just survival instinct, but a genuine need to ensure she was safe. He had to get down, find a way to help her. He emerged from the conduit into another, smaller chamber. This one felt different. The air was thick with the scent of something ancient and powerful. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, and upon it, a large, multifaceted crystal pulsed with a soft, internal blue light, the Heartstone. This was the inner sanctuary. He was here, alone, with the objective, and Zalera was still fighting in the shaft above. He looked back at the dark opening of the conduit, listening to the sounds of the struggle. He could feel Zalera's presence, the strain of her defense, the growing desperation. The Violet Warriors were forcing their way down. He couldn't just wait. He couldn't just stand here and let her be overwhelmed while he was safe. The bond, the echo of her struggle, was a physical ache in his chest. He had to do something. He looked at the Heartstone, then back at the conduit. He had a choice. Defend the stone alone, hope she held out, or go back up and help her. The decision was instant, primal. He wouldn't leave her. He turned back towards the conduit, gripping his staff. He was a sarcastic rogue, not a hero. But he was also bound, and right now, his echo resonated with hers. He started climbing back up, ready to face whatever was coming down that shaft. Climbing back into the narrow canyon while battle raged directly above him was terrifying. The shaft amplified the sounds, the sharp crackle of energy, the clang of staffs, the guttural shouts of the Violet Consoria warriors, and the strained, almost melodic clicks and hums of Zalera. He could feel her presence through the bond, a knot of focused tension, a relentless defense. He felt every impact she took, every parry, every slight stumble. Groundling, return to the sanctuary. Her echo pulsed, sharp with command and surprise. Secure the stone. Not leaving you. He projected back, shoving his foot against the slick side of the shaft for purchase. You're getting overwhelmed. It is my duty to hold this passage. Your duty is the stone. Her resonance was insistent, tinged with something that might have been frustration. My duty is apparently bonded to yours now, he retorted mentally, reaching for the next handhold. And I'm better at messy brawls than elegant duels. Let me help. He was close to the top of the conduit. He could see the faint light from the archive chamber filtering down. He heard a sound that made his blood run cold. A shout of triumph from one of the Violet Warriors, a grunt of pain from Zalera, and then a sudden, sickening silence from her end of the bond. Her echo didn't vanish, but it became weak, flickering like a dying signal. Panic seized him. Zalera, he projected desperately. Are you okay? There was no immediate response. The sounds of battle were still there, but different now, less a frantic defense, more a steady advance. They had broken through. He pulled himself out of the conduit opening, light staff ready. The scene was grim. Zalera lay slumped against the wall of the archive chamber, her blue markings faint and irregular. Her light staff was embedded in the wall several feet away, its light extinguished. Two Violet Warriors stood over her, their weapons trained on her. More were advancing down the aisle, including a larger, more imposing figure, Vale, the Consortia captain. The Scion is taken, one of the warriors bellowed in heavily accented basic, probably for Kalen's benefit, perhaps hoping he'd surrender. The azure spire will fall. Rage, cold and sharp, surged through Kalen. They had heard her. The flickering echo of her pain and unconsciousness fueled his anger. He wasn't supposed to feel this protective of an alien princess who had mocked him and accidentally bonded him. But the bond was real, and it was potent. He wasn't thinking about strategy, or escape, or even survival anymore. He was thinking about her. Get away from her, he said, his voice low and dangerous. He planted his feet, raising his light staff. It felt heavier now, charged with his fury. The Violet Warriors turned to him, surprised. The captain, Vale, halted his advance, his multifaceted eyes fixing on Kalen with predatory interest. The groundling returns, Vale said, his voice a deep, resonant growl that needed no implant to convey menace. You have bonded with the Scion. Yes? We felt the disturbance. A fascinating misstep for the Azure bloodline. Perhaps you can be. Repurposed. Not happening, Kalen said. He charged. He wasn't a trained warrior like Xylar, or like these violet thugs. But he was fast, agile, and utterly reckless when he was cornered. He didn't engage in elegant parries. He swung his staff like a baseball bat, putting his whole body weight into it. The first warrior wasn't ready for his crude ferocity. Kalen's staff connected with their weapon, sending sparks flying and knocking the weapon from their grasp. Before the warrior could recover, Kalen shoved them hard, sending them stumbling back into a stack of archives. With a crash, the second warrior was faster. Trying to flank him, Kalen spun, using the momentum of his swing, and caught the warrior's arm with his staff. He heard a sharp click and a cry of pain. The warrior dropped their weapon, clutching their injured limb. Vale growled, finally advancing. He was bigger, his weapon a formidable energy axe that pulsed with dark purple light. Impressive for a groundling, Vale sneered. But clumsiness cannot defeat mastery. Kalen knew he couldn't win a straight fight against the captain. Not with skill, anyway. But he had something else. He still felt Xylara's weak echo, felt the profound link between them. He looked at her, slumped against the wall, her blue markings barely visible. He needed to wake her up. He needed to jolt her to reignite that fierce spark he'd felt earlier. He needed to use the bond. He focused on the flickering echo of her presence. He poured his fear, his anger, his fierce protectiveness into the bond. He visualized her markings flaring with strength, visualized her standing beside him. He reached out with his mind, pushing his consciousness towards hers through the resonance link he barely understood. It felt like shouting into a void, pouring energy into a fragile connection. He didn't know if it would work, or if he was just wasting precious seconds. Vale was almost on him. Kalen braced himself, staff held high. Just as Vale swung his energy axe, Kalen felt a jolt through the bond. Stronger this time, a flicker of consciousness, a weak surge of acknowledgement. It wasn't much, but it was something. As Vale's axe descended, Kalen threw himself to the side, the weapon slicing through the air where he had been. He rolled, coming up on one knee just as he heard a faint sound from Xylar's direction. A low hum, the first sound she had made since falling. He looked over. Her blue markings were no longer faint. They were pulsing, weakly at first, then with growing strength. Her eyes, the alien facets reflecting the chaotic light, were opening. Vale snarled, turning back to Kalen. The groundling delays the inevitable. The stone is ours. But as Vale took a step towards the sanctuary, Xylara pushed Hush away from the wall. She swayed slightly, but her gaze was sharp, focused on the captain. Her blue markings flared, stronger now, radiating a cold, intense light. "You will not touch the stone," Xylara's voice hummed, weak but filled with terrifying resolve. She raised a trembling hand, not towards her lost staff, but towards Vale. Kalen watched, mesmerized, as Xylara's blue markings intensified, concentrating on her outstretched hand. A faint blue light began to coalesce in her palm. It wasn't the contained energy of a light staff, but something else, raw, shimmering power that pulsed in time with her newly vibrant markings. He felt it through the bond, a deep well of energy being drawn upon, a dangerous resonance building within her. Vale hesitated, his predatory confidence faltering for just a moment. He sensed the shift in her, the sudden resurgence of power. "The scion is weak," he roared, trying to mask his uncertainty. "A damaged vessel. You cannot wield the bloodline's full strength, my strength." "That is not what you understand, Consoria," Xylara hummed, her voice gaining resonance, vibrating through the chamber. The blue light in her hand flared. Kalen felt a sudden, violent tug through the bond, like an energy surge passing directly through him. He gasped, staggering back, but didn't fall. The connection felt like it was burning, but in a way that amplified him, not hurt him. He looked at Xylara. The light in her hand wasn't just light. It was coalescing into a form, solidifying. It took shape, becoming a blade, elongated and curved, crackling with pure energy. It was magnificent, terrifying. The ritual weapons as symbols, the Jason had mentioned. This wasn't a symbol. This was raw power given form. The blade of echoes, Xylara projected, her voice echoing not just in his mind, but seeming to fill the very air of the sanctuary, forged from the resonance of the bloodline and the bond. She looked at Kalen, her eyes meeting his across the chamber. He saw gratitude there, recognition, and a fierce, unwavering determination that mirrored his own now. He had jolted her echo, and she had responded by drawing on a power linked to their bond. Vale snarled and charged, energy axe held high. Xylara met him head-on. She was still injured, her movements not as fluid as earlier, but the blade of echoes seemed to compensate, moving with a terrible speed and precision. The clash of the blue blade and the purple axe sent shockwaves through the chamber, rattling the archives. Kalen, recovering from the surge, didn't just stand there. He remembered the two downed violet warriors. He grabbed the dropped weapon of the less injured one, a smaller, more manageable energy pistol, and aimed at the advancing violet soldiers. He was a terrible shot with alien tech he just picked up, but he didn't need to be precise. He just needed to distract them, to keep them off Xylara while she faced Vale. He squeezed the trigger. A purple beam lanced out, missing the closest warrior by a mile but forcing them scatter for cover. The duel between Xylara and Vale was brutal and fast. Vale's raw power and aggression met Xylara's focused energy and newfound weapon. She parried a heavy blow from the axe, the blade of echoes crackling against the purple energy. She was pushed back, staggering near the pedestal, holding the heartstone. Vale pressed his advantage, aiming for the stone. He seeks to shatter the anchor. Xylara's echo was sharp with alarm. If the stone breaks, the spire falls, and the bloodline dies. Kalen heard her, felt her desperation. He fired the energy pistol again, forcing the advancing warriors to duck. He looked at Xylara, her back to the stone, facing the overwhelming might of Vale. He looked at the glowing heartstone. He looked at his own useless light staff, lying forgotten on the ground. The energy pistol was almost drained. He had to do something else. Something that wasn't fighting. What did Vale want? The stone. What did Xylara need? Protection for it. What did Kalen have? A bond he didn't understand, a messy skill set, and a willingness to be stupidly brave. He dropped the empty pistol, ignoring the remaining violet warriors, ignoring the fierce duel behind him. Kalen ran to the pedestal. He didn't know what the heartstone did, or how it worked, but he knew it was important. He placed his hands on the cool, pulsating crystal. The moment he touched it, a wave of pure energy washed over him. It was overwhelming, filled with a chorus of whispers, a cascade of images, faces he didn't know, voices speaking a language far older than Xylara's, a sense of connection to the entire floating city, to the planet below, to the very fabric of this alien reality. And mixed with it all, amplified by his touch, was the resonance bond with Xylara, roaring to life, integrating his presence with the Heartstone's ancient power. He felt a sudden, profound understanding of what the stone was. Not just an anchor, but a reservoir of ancestral echoes, a focal point for the Azure bloodline's collective consciousness. He gasped as the energy surged through him, through the bond, towards Xylara. Her blue markings flared incandescently, her strength surging, amplified by his connection to the stone. The blade of echoes pulsed with blinding light. Xylara roared, a sound of pure, focused power. She met Vale's next blow, not just deflecting it, but shattering his energy axe with a single, devastating strike. Vale recoiled, stunned. Xylara didn't give him a chance to recover. Powered by the stone and their bond, she unleashed a barrage of strikes with the blade of echoes. Swift, brutal, utterly relentless. Vale, disarmed and outmatched, was forced onto the defensive, stumbling back. Xylara pressed him, driving him towards the conduit they had come through. The remaining violet warriors, seeing their leader defeated, hesitated, then broke and ran, scrambling back up the aisle towards the entrance. Xylara pursued Vale, her eyes burning with blue light, the blade of echoes a devastating extension of her will. She didn't kill him. Instead, with a final powerful strike, she disarmed him completely, sending him reeling back into the dark opening of the conduit. The blade of echoes pulsed, then dissipated into pure light. Zelara stood panting at the edge of the conduit, watching as Vale's defeated figure disappeared into the darkness. The sounds of battle in the archive chamber faded as the remaining Violet warriors retreated. Silence returned to the sanctuary, broken only by Kalen's ragged breathing and the soft hum of the heartstone beneath his hands. He slowly pulled his hands away. The overwhelming sensation lessened, leaving behind a lingering warmth and a deeper, more intricate connection to Zelara's echo. He looked at her. She was leaning against the conduit entrance, exhausted, her damaged side bleeding the strange blue-tinged fluid of her species. But she was alive, and she had won. She looked at him, her blue markings slowly returning to their normal rhythm. "Touch the stone," she hummed, her voice weak but filled with awe. "No groundling, no outsider has ever touched the heartstone and survived the resonance." "Ja, well," Kalen managed, feeling shaky but exhilarated. "Guess I'm not just any groundling." He walked towards her, leaving the glowing stone behind. He reached her side, looking at her wound. "You're hurt." "The bond amplified the stone's energy through you," Zelara projected, ignoring her injury for the moment. "It flowed into me. It allowed me to forge the blade, to defeat him." Her gaze was intense, searching. "You are not what the rites predicted." "Clearly," Kalen said, gently probing her wound. The shimmering underlayer was torn, revealing the complex biostructure beneath. "It looked bad. We need to get this patched up." He tore a strip of fabric from his own tattered scarf, the only thing he had that was remotely sterile. She flinched as he touched her, but didn't pull away. Unveiling. "Your touch on the stone, the resonant."
That word.
She murmured, her voice soft, almost questioning. "What have we created?" "No idea," Kalen admitted, pressing the fabric to her wound. It wasn't much, but it was something. He felt the warmth of her skin beneath his fingers, felt the faint, rhythmic pulsing of her internal systems through the resonance bond. The fear and adrenaline were fading, leaving behind a strange, potent mix of exhaustion, relief, and a deep, unsettling connection to this alien woman. "But hey," he added, managing a weak, sarcastic smile, "at least you're not dissolved into the lower winds." "Progress." Zelara looked at him, truly looked at him this time, her alien eyes tracing the lines of his face. Her blue markings pulsed, a pattern he was beginning to recognize as warmth, curiosity. "Groundling Kalen," she hummed, her voice incredibly soft. "You are more than the dust." He felt her thought, a fragile tendril of wonder, touch his own consciousness, through the bond. He had stripped her armor, silenced her mockery, fought by her side, touched her sacred stone, and somehow, in the chaos, forged a link that seemed to transcend their initial conflict entirely. The alien princess, who had scorned him, now looked at him with something entirely new in her eyes. And he knew, with a sudden, terrifying certainty, that his life, his path back home, had just become infinitely more complicated. With the immediate threat of Vale and the Violet Consortia routed from the sanctuary, a tense calm settled over the azure spire. Zelara, leaning heavily on Kalen, as they made their way back up through the now quiet archive levels, was weak but resolute. Her blue markings had dimmed, but the resonance between them was stronger, a constant hum beneath his consciousness. He could feel her pain, her fatigue, but also a quiet triumph, a deep-seated relief that pulsed through the bond. The azure guards met them cautiously, their markings swirling with questions and apprehension. They had heard the sounds of battle, felt the surge of power from the sanctuary. They saw their scion, leaning on a human, her armor torn, her side bleeding, but alive and victorious. And they saw the human, the groundling, whose echo was now undeniably, palpably linked to hers. The elder from the platform was there, its ancient markings a tableau of shock and confusion. "The scion lives," it exclaimed, relief warring with deep unease. "And the stone is safe. But the groundling, the bond." "The groundling fought," Zelara stated, her voice weak but clear, cutting through the elder's hesitation. "He defended the sanctuary. He connected with the stone." Her echo projected a sense of profound, almost sacred significance, Around Kalen's actions, the elder's markings pulsed rapidly. To connect with the stone is to touch the ancestor's breath. This is not foreseen by the rites of echoes, the unveil. It has deepened the resonance beyond measure. The bond is complete, Zelara stated, looking at Kalen, her gaze holding a new depth. He bears the mark of my unveiling, and he shares the stone's echo. She spoke to the elder, her native tongue a rapid-fire series of clicks and hums. Kalen's implant struggled, providing fragmented translation. By ancient law, one who shares echo, one who touches stone, commends, is granted passage. To the inner hearth. Inner hearth? Kalen felt a surge of unease. This sounded like another ritual, another level of integration he wasn't ready for. He just wanted a medkit, a ship, and a ticket off this rock. The inner hearth is the core of the Azure bloodline's existence. Zelara projected into his mind, sensing his apprehension. It is where alliances are forged, where futures are bound. Bound. That word again. News of the attack and the Scion's defense spread quickly through the spire. Whispers followed them as Kalen helped Zelara towards a healing chamber. He felt the scrutiny of the Azure populace, their fear of the Consortia attack, their relief at Zelara's survival, their utter bewilderment at the human who had become so central to their crisis. In the healing chamber, a practitioner with swirling green markings examined Zelara's wound, applying a shimmering paste that immediately began to knit the damaged tissue. Kalen watched, fascinated and relieved. As the practitioner worked, Zelara's echo became calmer, the pain receding. The bond is a strange thing, groundling Kalen. She projected, her voice clearer now. I feel your presence, a constant hum beneath my thoughts. Your anxieties, your humor. She sent a flicker of dry amusement through the bond. It is distracting, but also not unwelcome. Glad my existential dread and bad jokes are providing some entertainment. Kalen muttered, leaning against the cool wall. He felt her presence too, a warm weight in his chest, a sense of another consciousness moving alongside his. It was intrusive, but also strangely comforting in this alien place. Your presence in the sanctuary. When you touched the stone, she projected, her echo gaining intensity. It was immense. It connected my resonance to the ancestors through you. It is a power I did not know was possible. She looked at him, her gaze questioning. What are you, Kalen Reese? What manner of groundling are you? Just a guy who had a bad day and tripped into your ancient rituals, he said, shaking his head. Nothing special. You shattered my ritual armor with your hands, she countered, her echo suddenly sharp with memory. You fought the Consortia with clumsy ferocity. You touched the Heartstone and channeled the ancestors' breath. You are special, or perhaps catastrophic. A flicker of genuine confusion and vulnerability touched her resonance. I do not understand you. My training offers no framework for your existence. His heart clenched slightly at her honesty. He didn't understand himself in this context either. Ah, look, Zelara, he said, using her name, feeling it resonate oddly with the bond. I didn't plan any of this. I just want to go home. Can this bond thing be undone? Once your spire is safe, her markings dimmed slightly. The unveiling bond, the stone resonance. They are woven into the core. Undoing them is not, it may not be possible. Her echo was tinged with sadness, and something else he couldn't decipher. We are bound, Kalen. Our echoes are joined. For however long our cycles turn, the finality of her words hit him hard. He was stuck, bound to an alien princess, tied to a floating city, his fate now intertwined with hers, by a ritual he didn't understand and a power he had accidentally unleashed. He looked at her, the alien beauty of her form, the complex emotions flickering in her markings, the strange, deep connection he felt to her very being. He had arrived seeking rescue, stumbled into a judgment, broken her traditions, fought by her side, and emerged irreversibly linked. He had silenced her mockery, yes, but she had, in turn, silenced the life he knew. Days turned into cycles, measured by the slow drift of the sky spires. Zelara's wound healed, leaving a faint scar that her blue markings flowed around. The azure spire solidified its defenses, fending off further probing attacks from the violet consortia. Kalen remained. He was no longer a prisoner, exactly, but a fixture. He was the groundling who touched the stone, the one whose echo was bound to the sand. His days were a strange blend of assimilation and alienation. The azure people treated him with a mix of reverence, suspicion, and profound curiosity. Children with brightly colored markings would stare and whisper as he passed. Elders would eye him with ancient unease. Zilara was his constant, though sometimes frustrating, guide. The resonance bond meant he felt her presence always, her moods, her anxieties about the spire's vulnerability, her moments of quiet reflection, and she felt his. Your thoughts are chaotic, Kalen. She projected one cycle as they stood on a high walkway, looking out at the other spires, always shifting, full of images I do not recognize. Coffee, cheeseburgers, what are these concepts? Kalen chuckled, a dry, rusty sound, fuel, and comfort food, stuff from my world. He found himself explaining Earth concepts to her, sharing snippets of his life, his history, his culture. She listened, her echo a calm pool receiving his turbulent thoughts. The cultural misunderstandings provided moments of dry humor, his casual language, Earth idioms, and sarcastic wit often baffled her, requiring mental translation through the bond, which sometimes distorted the meaning in hilarious ways. When you say kick the bucket, does this involve actual buckets? She'd projected once, utterly serious. Their forced proximity and shared trauma had deepened into something complex. It wasn't just a bond of survival anymore. Vulnerability had crept in. Zilara, usually so controlled and formal, allowed him glimpses beneath the scion's mask. He learned about the immense pressure of her role, the ancient prophecies tied to her bloodline, the history of conflict with the consortia, the loneliness of leadership. Before you disrupted the rite, she projected one twilight cycle, her echo hesitant. The anticipated outcome was a bond with the scion of the Jade bloodline, a political alliance, emerging to strengthen our position. She didn't say it was a marriage, but the implication was clear. Your victory, my unveiling, shattered that path. It has angered the Jade, and others. So I didn't just save you from the purples I messed up your arranged marriage to? Kalen asked, leaning against the railing. It was not arranged in the way your culture might perceive, she corrected. It was foreseen, necessary, and was prepared for it. Her echo was tinged with something like disappointment, but also relief. Your actions created uncertainty, chaos. My specialty, he murmured. Sorry about that. Do not be sorry, she projected, her resonance suddenly intense, surprising him. The foreseen path was cold, without echo. He felt a wave of warmth, of acceptance, flow from her through the bond. Your echo is warm and loud. Their physical intimacy had been limited since the sanctuary, confined to the bond, to the shared resonance of their thoughts and feelings. But the connection was growing, twisting into something undeniably romantic. He felt her presence like a physical weight, a warmth in his chest. He saw the way her markings pulsed when he made her laugh, or baffle her, the way her multifaceted eyes lingered on him when she thought he wasn't looking. He saw the alien beauty of her, no longer just a terrifying figure of authority, but a complex, powerful, vulnerable woman. And she saw him, not just a clumsy groundling, but the man who had shown unexpected courage, who had broken through her defenses in ways no one else ever had. The external threat of the violet consortia remained, a constant pressure that kept the spire on edge. This pressure, ironically, forced Zilara and Kalen closer. Their bond was a strategic advantage. Their synchronized thoughts, Kalen's unpredictable groundling perspective, Zilara's leadership and power amplified by their connection to the stone. They spent cycles planning defenses, coordinating resources, their minds working in tandem through the bond, building a rapport that bypassed language entirely. One twilight cycle, while reviewing energy reports in her private chambers, Zilara stopped. The Jade bloodline. They have sent an envoy, she projected, her echo tight. They wish to discuss the instability caused by the unveiling. They question the validity of our bond, Are they going to demand I fight their guy for your hand? Kaelin asked, half joking. Something similar, she projected, her resonance serious. A challenge to prove the strength of the unveiling bond, to show that it is not a weakness, but a new form of strength. The challenge was set. Not a duel of arms this time, but a trial of resonance. The Jade bloodline proposed a ritual merging, where Kaelin and Zilara would stand before the assembled bloodlines and allow their bond to be read, its strength and nature examined by the elders. It was a test of their connection, a dangerous public display. Failure would invalidate their bond, leave the Azure Spire vulnerable, and likely lead to Kaelin's permanent exile or worse. Success would solidify Zalara's position, legitimize their link, and potentially forge a new path for the Azure bloodline. The pressure was immense. Kaelin felt Zalara's anxiety through the bond, a constant hum of worry that mirrored his own. This ritual requires complete vulnerability, she projected the cycle before the trial. The elders will delve into our echoes. They will see everything. Everything. Kaelin felt a cold knot form in his stomach. His messy past, his fears, his entirely non-ritualistic reasons for being here. All laid bare, our shared thoughts, our feelings for one another. The moment you touched the stone, the moment you unveiled me, her echo was hesitant, tinged with a vulnerability he rarely heard. They will see what you did, what you felt. Right. Kaelin swallowed. He had been sarcastic, desperate, maybe a little angry. Not exactly romantic epic stuff. So, they'll see I basically tackled you and ripped your clothes off because you were kicking my butt. Her racrigs pulsed, a complex pattern he recognized as her version of a wry smile. They will see that. Yes. And what came after? Her echo softened, became incredibly intimate. They will see the moment you felt my pain in the archives. The echo you sent to wake me. The way you returned for me. He felt a blush creep up his neck. It was one thing to experience those moments together, another entirely to have them broadcast to an audience of alien elders. And they'll see how terrified I was. They will see that you chose to face that terror for my sake. She projected, her echo warm, comforting. That is also part of our echo, Kaelin. The groundling fear and the groundling courage. The night before the ritual was tense. They didn't talk much, not out loud. Their communication was almost entirely through the bond, a constant flow of reassurance, shared anxiety, and a deepening sense of mutual reliance. Kaelin felt the full weight of what this meant to Zilara, not just for her political position, but for her identity, for her future. And he felt the weight of his own life, being irrevocably tied to hers. He looked at her, sitting across the room, her blue markings subdued in the soft light of her chambers. She was magnificent, terrifying, utterly alien, and somehow he was completely, inexplicably falling for her. He had stumbled into her world, broken its rules, and found something he hadn't even known he was looking for. Zilara, he projected, using her name, focusing his consciousness entirely on her through the bond. Tomorrow, whatever happened, thank you for not dissolving me, for letting me fight alongside you. Her head lifted, her eyes meeting his across the room. Her blue markings flared with soft light. Thank you, Kaelin. She projected back, her echo filled with a profound depth of feeling that bypassed all translation. For unveiling me, for showing me. A different echo. The resonance between them intensified, a silent, powerful acknowledgement of everything they had been through and everything they faced. The intimacy wasn't physical, not yet, not in the way he understood it, but it was something deeper, more profound, a merging of minds, a bonding of souls, a shared vulnerability that felt more intimate than anything physical could ever be. He knew then, with absolute certainty, that he wouldn't just face the trial for her sake. He would face anything for her sake. The assembly chamber was vast and silent, illuminated by the soft, perpetual light of the sky spires filtering through massive crystalline windows. Elders from the Azure, Jade, and other bloodlines were gathered, their markings a kaleidoscope of ancient lineages. Kaelin stood beside Zilara in the center of the chamber, before a raised platform where the lead elders sat, their forms radiating an aura of immense age and authority. He felt Xylara's presence beside him, through the bond, a core of calm determination wrapped in a thin layer of apprehension. His own echo was a mess of nerves and resolute loyalty. The rite of resonance begins, one of the Jade Elders announced, its voice a dry, rustling sound. Scion Xylara of the Azure, and the groundling Kalen Reese, you present your bond for judgment, to determine its strength, its purity, its validity. Xylara stepped slightly forward. We present our echo, she stated, her voice clear and resonant, carrying through the silent chamber. Forged in chaos, tempered by fire, bound by resonance and stone. The lead Azure Elder, the one who had overseen the initial rite of echoes, spoke next. Place your hands upon the resonance pedestal. A low, wide structure pulsed with a gentle light between them. Kalen looked at Xylara. She met his gaze, her blue markings pulsing with a quiet strength, and nodded. They each placed a hand on the pedestal. The light beneath their palms intensified, flowing up their arms, connecting them not just to the pedestal, but visually, palpably, to each other. A shimmering field of blue light enveloped them, pulsed by Xylara's markings, and radiating from where Kalen's hand touched the pedestal. The resonance bond between them, usually an internal sensation, was now externalized, visible to all. He felt the delve begin. Not a physical touch, but a presence entering their shared echo space. A probing ancient consciousness, slipping past his mental defenses, past Xylara's trained control. It was the elders, reading their bond. He felt Xylara tense beside him, bracing herself. Images, thoughts, emotions began to surface in their shared consciousness, amplified and presented to the onlookers. He saw the scene on the platform, Xylara's mocking expression, his desperate move, the tearing silk, her shock. He felt the rush of adrenaline, the fear, the unexpected triumph. He felt her fury, her humiliation, and then the dawning realization of what he had done, the strange, unpredictable nature of his victory. The scene in the archives came next. The Violet Consoria attack, Xylara's struggle, his terror, his return to her side in the conduit. He felt his desperate mental call to her, the surge of protective instinct, his clumsy fight with Vale's guards. He felt Xylara's pain, her fading consciousness, her reaction to his call, the surge of hope, the drawing of power. Then the sanctuary, his touch on the heartstone, the overwhelming flood of ancestral echoes, the connection to the spire, the amplification of their bond. He felt the raw power flowing through him, to her, allowing her to forge the blade of echoes. He felt her triumph, her awe at the power of their combined resonance, her look of wonder at him, and deeper things surfaced. His loneliness before landing here, his drifting life, her isolation as the Scion, the weight of her responsibilities, the dry humor they shared, the unexpected comfort they found in each other's presence, the growing sense of reliance. The intimacy wasn't just in the dramatic moments. It was in the quiet thoughts, the shared worries, the slow discovery of the person beneath the role, or the facade. He felt Xylara's echo beside his, open and vulnerable, allowing their shared history to be seen, to be judged. He felt her acceptance of their bond, her quiet hope for what it might become. He felt her affection for him, shy but real, blooming in the fertile ground of shared trauma and mutual trust. And he realized with startling clarity that his own feelings mirrored hers. He wasn't just bonded by accident anymore. He cared for her, deeply. The delve lasted an eternity and a heartbeat. When it ended, the shimmering light around them receded, leaving behind a profound silence. Kalen felt exposed, raw, his innermost self laid bare to an entire alien culture. He looked at Xylara. Her markings were soft, her expression serene, vulnerable. The lead Azure Elder spoke, its voice measured, resonating with the wisdom of ages. We have read the echo. We have witnessed the bond. It looked at the Jade Elders, then back at Xylara and Kalen. It is not a bond of fealty, not a bond of alliance based on lineage or strategy. It paused, and Kalen held his breath. It is a bond of unveiling, amplified by resonance, with the stone. It is a bond of the heart, a bond of the heart. The alien term, translated through his implant, resonated deeply with what he felt. The elder continued, its voice gaining strength. The groundling Kalen Reese did not defeat the scion through mastery of our forms, but by revealing her core, and in turn, his own core was revealed through his connection to the stone and his actions in defense of the spire. The bond is pure, the elder declared. It is strong, it is valid. By the ancestors' breath, by the sky wind's judgment, the resonance of Scion Zilera and groundling Kalen is affirmed. A ripple of murmurs went through the chamber. It wasn't the expected outcome. It wasn't a political alliance sanctioned by ancient forms. It was something new, something based on raw vulnerability, shared crisis, and genuine emotional connection. The Jade Elder, its markings swirling with controlled disapproval, finally spoke. The bond is acknowledged, but its nature is unprecedented. How will the Azure bloodline be led by such a merging? A scion bound to an outsider, a groundling. Zalara stepped forward, her head crest held high, her blue markings flaring not with defiance, but with quiet confidence. By the strength of our combined echoes, she stated, her voice clear and unwavering. By the resilience forged in chaos. By a resonance that transcends bloodline and origin. She looked directly at the Jade Elder. The Violet Consortia seek to shatter our traditions through force. We will show them that our traditions are not brittle, but adaptable. That new strength can be found in unexpected places. She reached out, taking Kalen's hand, linking their fingers. A simple, physical gesture that spoke volumes in this chamber of ancient rituals. We are bound, and we will defend the Azure Spire together. The courtroom was silent. The air crackled with the tension of tradition meeting change. Kalen felt the warmth of Zilara's hand in his, felt the unwavering strength of her resolve flow through the bond. The emotional intimacy forged in crisis, exposed in the rite of resonance, had culminated in this public declaration. They were bound not by law or prophecy alone, but by a connection that the ancient ritual had validated in its own alien way. He was no longer just trying to get home. His home was here now, with her, on these floating spires, defending a world that had unexpectedly claimed him. The Jade Elder remained stoic, its markings giving nothing away. But the lead Azure Elder nodded slowly, its ancient form seeming to settle into acceptance. The Scion has spoken, it pronounced. The bond is affirmed. The path ahead is uncertain. But it is the path forged by the rites. The assembly concluded. As they left the chamber, the atmosphere was different. The suspicion from some remained, but there was also a new sense of hope, a spark of excitement at the unprecedented nature of their bond. Kalen could feel it through the collective echo of the spire, a shifting tide of acceptance and anticipation. In the quiet of Zilara's chambers, the privacy of the space felt immense after the public exposure of the rite. They stood in silence for a moment, their hands still linked. The resonance bond hummed between them, no longer just a channel for communication and shared sensation, but a palpable connection, a shared core. Zilara turned to him, her blue markings soft and radiant. We are bound, she whispered, her voice low, devoid of the formalities she used in public. It wasn't a statement of obligation, but of wonder. Truly bound, Kalen, by the heart. Yeah, Kalen whispered back, his voice a little rough. By the heart. He raised their joined hands, looking at the faint shimmering mark on his temple, where she had first touched him during the unveiling. He could feel a corresponding mark on her hand through their connection. She stepped closer, her head tilted back, her eyes searching his face. The elders saw our feelings, she projected, her echo shy. They saw your kindness, your courage, affection. He felt a lump in his throat. And I saw yours, he said softly. Your strength. Your vulnerability. Everything. She raised her free hand, reaching out to touch his face, her fingertips tracing the line of his jaw. Her markings flared, reflecting the deep emotion in her alien eyes. The moment you stripped my armor, she projected, her voice a low hum that resonated deep within him. The shock, the fury, her gaze dropped to his lips. And then, the silence. He understood. The silence wasn't just the absence of her voice. It was the shattering of her facade, the moment her controlled world cracked open, allowing something real and raw to emerge. It was the moment their story truly began. She leaned in, her breath warm against his cheek. He felt her echo reach out, soft and seeking. He met her halfway, closing the small distance between them. Their lips met, alien softness against human. It was a kiss that was both tentative and profound, carrying the weight of everything that had passed between them. The mockery, the fear, the fight, the bond, the public vulnerability, the private intimacy. It wasn't just a physical connection. It was a merging of their resonances, their echoes intertwining in a silent, powerful language only they understood. He felt her respond to his touch, her unique alien physiology, a source of both fascination and wonder. The initial barrier of their different forms dissolved in the overwhelming sensation of their shared core. The kiss deepened, becoming more urgent, more passionate. He wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close, feeling the slender strength of her body against his. Her hands moved to his back, exploring his form, foreign but now deeply familiar through their bond. The vulnerability exposed in the ritual became the foundation of their physical connection, the raw truth of their feelings fueling the intimacy. It was not just sex, it was a ritual of their own, a physical manifestation of the bond forged in fire and accepted by the heart. It was the joining of two disparate worlds, two different beings, finding unity in the most unexpected, profound way. He had stumbled into her life, broken her rituals, and in doing so had become irrevocably, beautifully bound to her. And as they stood together in the quiet of her chambers, their echoes intertwined, Kalen knew that his journey home had ended, and a new, unimagined future had just begun. The following cycles were a blur of navigating the complexities of their new reality. The bond, now publicly acknowledged and validated as a bond of the heart, shifted Zerolara's position, not weakening it as the Jade bloodline hoped, but fundamentally changing it. She wasn't just the heir, she was the scion, who had formed an unprecedented connection, a link that resonated with the deep ancient power of the spire itself. Their days were filled with managing the Azure Spire's defenses, negotiating with wary bloodlines, and integrating Kalen's unique perspective into their strategic planning. His groundling ingenuity, his pragmatic approach, and his willingness to question established norms, combined with Zalara's inherent power and deep understanding of her culture, proved to be a formidable combination. The Violet Consoria's attacks became less effective, their tactics anticipated by the combined echoes of the scion and the groundling who touched the stone. Their relationship deepened in the quiet moments stolen between duties. The resonance bond was a constant river flowing between them, a private space where thoughts and feelings were shared without the need for words. They learned each other's rhythms, their triggers, their comforts. Kalen taught Zalara about his home, about Earth history, about things like sarcasm and pizza and the sheer absurdity of human existence. Zalara taught him about the nuances of her culture, the deep reverence for ancestry, the connection to the sky winds, the complex language of markings and echoes. Their intimacy became a sacred space, a continuation of the ritual merging that had begun with the rites. It wasn't just physical release. It was a communion, a moment where their echoes blended, their consciousnesses touched, finding solace and profound connection in each other. Zalara, initially reserved and formal, blossomed in their private moments, revealing layers of passion and tenderness that her public role concealed. Kalen, the sarcastic rogue, found a depth of feeling he hadn't known he possessed, his protector instincts and loyalty morphing into genuine love. One twilight cycle, standing on a high platform overlooking the shimmering city, Kalen watched Zalara as she spoke to her guards, her form silhouetted against the distant spires. He felt her presence beside him through the bond, a warmth in his chest, a sense of rightness that transcended the alien setting. The Jade Consortia has requested a formal alliance, Zalara projected, her echo thoughtful. Not a merging of bloodlines as was planned, but a pact, based on mutual defense. They acknowledge the strength of our bond. So, my accidental stripping and stone touching worked out for you politically? Kalen asked, a faint smile touching his lips. It showed them a power they did not anticipate. she projected back, her echo containing a flicker of pride, a resonance that transcends the old forms. She turned to him, her blue markings soft. It showed them, us, Kalen. She stepped closer, taking his hand again. The path ahead is still uncertain, she projected, her echo quiet, intimate. There will be challenges. Those who cling to the old ways. The Violet Consortia still watch. We'll face them, Kalen said, squeezing her hand. Together. Together, she affirmed, her echo echoing the word in his mind. The groundling in the scion, the chaos in the resonance. She looked up at him, her multifaceted eyes filled with a love that was both alien and universally recognizable. You broke my armor, Kalen, and you silenced my mocking. But you also went and unveiled my heart. He leaned down, kissing her gently. The future wasn't the one he had planned when he'd set out in his battered scout ship. He wasn't going home, but standing here on a floating city in the sky, bound to an alien resonance by a bond of echoes and a love that transcended worlds. Kalen knew he was exactly where he was supposed to be. He had found his home in the heart of another. The mocking had stopped, replaced by a silence filled with understanding, acceptance, and the quiet, powerful resonance of their joined souls.